You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Anthony R. Destiny, Joe Ferrani, and Jerry Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is sponsored by Paymark Payroll. Payday is the most important day to your most important people, and payday is made easy at www.payyourpeople.com.
All right, we're here with another episode of Between Two Bridges, B2B. My name's Anthony R. Destiny.
Joseph Ferranti.
Jerry Kenna.
Dave Trafican.
So, how much Bitcoin you own? Let's start there.
I do own a little bit.
Yeah?
My brother...
2 coins? 3 coins?
My brother and I, a couple years ago, bought into it, and it's less than like $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. So I didn't get in early on it, but I did buy some.
Okay.
How about Doge?
I own a little bit of Shiba, a little bit of Bitcoin, and I don't remember if I think I went Ethereum is what I went for.
Okay.
Yeah, no Doge.
Doge made a drive this morning. It was up to about fucking 9 cents.
I always laugh at those videos where the guy has like the thumb drive with like 300 million on it or some crazy number. Right. He's like, please hackers, can you find this and hack this?
The one guy had like 1 attempt left.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, dude, I got you, bro. Give me $1 million and I'll do it. And then I'd be like, I fucked it up.
And then there was another guy I heard that he accidentally threw it away.
Yeah.
And he tried to go through like the landfill and find his thumb drive, and oops.
Yeah. I got thumb drives I found at the dry cleaners. We should probably plug them in and see what the fuck's on them things.
Yeah, you might be on the Bitcoin.
Like 38 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, we're good.
How about the guy that paid? I don't remember how many Bitcoin he paid. It was like 100 Bitcoin or something for a pizza.
Oh yeah, Papa John's.
Yeah.
First transaction.
Yeah, Papa John's.
Yep.
Well,
they were worth 1/4 of a cent.
Yeah.
At that point.
Let's fill in how you got there. You know, how'd you start? How'd you get here? Type of thing.
Sure.
Where are you from?
Sure. So born and raised in Oakmont, Verona area. Went to Riverview, played football there. My path, I guess, to explain that, I went to Clarion, had a football scholarship up there. Never finished Clarion, never finished schooling.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to play video games. That's what I wanted to do.
Visual arts, then.
Yeah, no. For me, I went to school for business.
Yeah.
And I always, for me, when it comes to studying, I'm a naturally curious person. Mm-hmm. But if I don't care about the topic, don't fucking bother me. Like I remember in college there was like European arts of like the 1400s. I'm like.
Give me that now. Save us all
I got to find a cute girl, or I got to find somebody that like I can.
Listen, even the cute girls didn't like fucking art of the 1400s.
So for me, and to this day, I'll nerd out and I'll look at every perspective and try to learn every angle possible on things that I like.
Yeah.
But if I'm not interested in it, don't bother me. So school for me, that your first 2 years of schooling, what is it? It's all general ed.
It's a joke.
And not that school's unimportant. I don't want to say that, but for me, it's just not set up to how my mind works and my attention span and my probably undiagnosed ADHD.
Correct.
So I.
Did you play receiver or what?
Yeah, definitely running back. So I had I was up in.
Talk about ADD.
Yeah. So I played at Clarion for a year, ended up leaving, coming back, moving at home, and worked at one of our local pizza shops.
Nice.
Then I got a job at at a barbecue restaurant up at Smoky. I almost said the name, but it don't matter. Smoky Bones.
Yeah.
So I worked up there for a little bit of time, and I always knew like I had to always try to have one foot forward, right? You can't stay stagnant. If you stay stagnant, you're dead in the water, especially if you don't have a degree, right? That's just, a lot of people put a lot of weight into that. So got into management at Smoky Bones. One of my regulars, his name's Ed, the one day he was like, hey man, you ever think about getting into financial services? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, you know? So he's like, check it out. So I interviewed with him, ended up going out getting my insurance exam. That's the life accident health exam, and started with it was a Fortune 500 company. Had success right away. Within the first 18 months of being with them.
Is that cold calling, or like what's the day in a life?
I'll share that with you as far as like, how to gain clients or how I did it. Yeah. But so I was 22 when I started in the financial services industry. What was I going to say? Oh, so I had immediate success. Was promoted to a manager very quickly. I was the youngest one in the company, so I was proud of that. It was like 24, something like that, running a staff of individuals. I think I had 9 people working for me. As far as how I gained clients, being 22, none of my buddies wanted to buy any insurance. Yeah. None of them had money to put into investments. Right. And their parents looked at me as the guy that screamed out inappropriate things at funny moments. so they're not going to roll over.
Your Rolodex wasn't
that way. Exactly. So just tried to always, and I always tried to find good people to emulate. One of the things that a pet peeve in my life is when people take advice from folks that aren't where you want to be, right? And I think sometimes we fall victim to that. And I'll listen to the guy that's making $500 a year all day, every day. Yeah. I will not listen to the person that's been through 5 divorces and, thinks America sucks, right? Yeah, I'm not going to listen to that person. So, as far as like, bringing on clients, cold calling, seminars, trying to doing a ton of networking, always just try to refer myself up. Tried to find ways to create value, and again, had success. Actually had a disagreement with my boss, so I went back into personal production. When I went and did that, I worked in the insurance business as a registered representative, and then I also was working actually at Olive Garden for a little bit because I needed to build it back up again, right?
Breadsticks. I mean,
listen, they're delicious.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that for probably about 18 months. Worked for myself. Worked at Olive Garden maybe for 13 months. Got an opportunity to work for somebody else, same company. But he and I had more of a similar philosophy on how we wanted to work in the industry. Went and worked for them. Worked for the firm total 11 years. Left them and joined the current firm that I'm with now. Worked there for about 15 months as an independent, as somebody that was in production. And then now I'm a director with that same firm. So I do personal production. I'm very just selective with who I work with. So my existing client base, I still bring on new clients, but again, I'm selective. I don't just take on anything anymore.
They should have got you.
And I mentor.
They could have had you.
And I mentor, advisors coming into the business. So that's kind of a path on how I got to where I'm at today. Also officiate football. So we can get the bad call brick out whenever you guys want.
What do you think's going on with officials these days? Is it? I mean, you don't go to school for that, right? Is there? You got to work your way up, type of thing.
Yeah. So in order to become an official, you have to pass the exams. They're not overly complicated.
Is there an eye test?
in the exam, do they make
What was funny is this last year I had an eye appointment, and my vision with my glasses is better than 20/20. Uh-huh. And I had somebody say to me, like, "Did you see that, ref?" And I was like, "Just so you know, in my car,
I have a
I have proof. It's like 30-20 vision or whatever it is, and he still didn't like the call. But so I officiate youth instructional football all the way up to semi-pro. I'm on a football crew for the varsity football team, or I guess I should say varsity crew for varsity games. What's challenging is that there's a lot of accumulation and there's a lot of discretion from, can you throw a flag every play? Absolutely. But you also warn people throughout games too.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you got to call it, right? And sometimes it's unfortunate that it happens during like a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
I love every second of it. Gets me out there. I'm a part of the game. I love football. I feel like that taught me a ton in my life. It's made me, I'm not saying I'm successful, but it's made me have the tools to be successful. And, when it comes to August through November, I'm tickled pink because I know I'm out on the football field 3 to 4 times a day, or 3 to 4 times a week, I should say. And I'm excited to get booed. Gives me a little pep in my step. Some of the things people say to you, it's interesting. They kiss their mother with that mouth. But I love it. I look forward to doing it hopefully for a long time, and I aspire to make it to the collegiate level, etc.
Oh, really? You
I
looking
want
to
to
go that direction?
Yeah, I would say something that I always try to do, again, just as I had mentioned earlier, I always try to take advice from folks that are in positions that I want to be in. So part of that is finding a mentor professionally, personally, whatever. So I definitely would love to try to make it to D3, D2, D1. I would absolutely love it. I think it's just so fun, so cool. I can't play football anymore. I'm too old. I'm out of shape.
Alumni games, bro. They'll be coming back.
Listen, I tried that. Remember when The Blind Side came out?
Yeah.
And then after that, they were like traveling around the United States, and you could have like your old alumni game. Yeah, I was running 5 yards and twisted my ankle and couldn't walk right for like 6 months.
Riverview got stomped, B-fed through 300 picks.
Yeah, I was in that.
He had a one-hitter.
So how do you pursue that? Like, how do you get? Is it just a regular job? You apply for the job and
you're talking as a football official?
Yeah, for college level. If you wanted to try to get to a college level.
Yeah. So throughout the whole thing, you need to establish yourself and basically be recommended. So you have your youth games where you make a bad call, you'll get bubble gum thrown at you and whatever, but it's not that big of a deal. And then naturally, as you go up in the higher caliber games, you get recommended, right? And I'm not shy to ask for anything, right? So as soon as I started, they're called an assigner, so they'll assign our games. I told them right away, I'm like, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to get to college, and I don't want to do it in an undeserving fashion, but I want you to be clear and understand this is what I'm trying. This is what my goal is. What I want. Right. I want to work towards this. Right. And one guy just started recently working with that. I think he's out of the Big Ten. He did one of the bowl games here recently. I told him, I said, hey, listen, we're going to review my varsity football film, but I want to be treated like I'm D1. Like I want that expectation. And it's kind of funny. The first thing he said, he's like, you got to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, that's first step, right? That's if that's what I want to do, that's what I got to do, right?
That's the first heckle you're gonna get.
That's the reality is that you got to pass an eye test, right? You don't see
like Ed Hockley's been in the game long enough. Like,
yeah, and I don't know if I'll get away with just doing curls the whole time, but you got to have you got to pass the eye test. You don't see 8 300-pounders officiating a football game just because of the optics of it. Not that they couldn't, but the optics of it isn't. You're not going to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So it's just what it is. So yeah, that's the way I'm going about it, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, there's people that have influence from one level to the next, whether it's getting onto a varsity crew, whether it's getting onto a D3, D2, whatever. You got to be recommended for it. They'll get a call saying, hey, who do you got for me? And they'll say, oh, talk to Dave Trafican. He's somebody that's has the capability and he has the drive to do it. Right. Or obviously they don't say that because you don't. So yeah, that's how you go about it.
We've talked about it here in this room before with our first guest, and it's about being, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You never want to be that guy.
100% agree.
So, and he's doing well for himself, and it's something that like I never really put much thought into.
Sure.
But then when you start looking at like the room you're in, you're like, I need to find a better room. Like
100%.
I mean, I'm not talking about this room. This room's sweet. I love you guys.
This is a good room.
I'm a believer. You're the average of your 5 closest friends. I'm 100% a believer in that. Whether it's mine, whether it's your perception, income, whatever it is. So I'm very, very selective on who I spend time around, and that'll alienate some of your old friends. That's just how it works, And not that you're not out and you see them there. Not that you wouldn't buy them a beer or say hello to them and give them a hug, but it's just one of those things that's how it works.
Yeah, you're not going to pick up the phone and call them and ask them for advice because it's just a waste of time.
Don't want to be in the spot that they're in. Yeah. Why would I ask?
What did your parents do?
So my parents are split. My mom, she had a cleaning business. She got remarried. And my father, same thing. He got remarried, and then he had a small business down in Wilkinsburg.
Okay.
He had a convenience store. So
nice.
You pop in there, grab a Turner's iced tea, and play a lottery number, and have some laughs. No, he retired a while ago. But my grandfather opened up the place. He then took it over from my grandfather, and I'd work there on Saturdays. That's how I'd make my money, growing up. And there's many times that I fell asleep right on the countertop, and so he's like knocking, like, "Hey, can I pay for this?" And it's how it is when you're young. You stay up late, and you gotta wake up early because it's a job, and probably wasn't the best employee. I was an honest employee, I'll say that. Never stole anything, right? And always restocked the shelves and all that. But my dad had a convenience store that I worked out of for basically until I was 18, until I went to college.
Yeah, I think I was 30, maybe 29. My stepdad.
When you stopped sleeping at work?
Yeah, my stepdad's a real early morning person.
Yeah.
And he would always tell me, like, hey, man, like, I know it's falling on deaf ears, but, like, when you start getting up early, your whole life's going to change. And, like, over the last 10 years, I'm, like, an early bird. Like, I get up and get moving. And and it's amazing. Like I couldn't, like, I can relate to people that are younger than me, like the people that I have working for me. I get it. But I'm like, dude, as soon as you realize this, and, like, kudos to him, like, I thought he was full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, the whole world starts at midnight. Like, everybody's out after midnight. And then you're like, well, now it's like midnight's not even an option for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I am more of a night owl personally, but I swear to God that like 6:30 to 7:30 sleep. That's like my best sleep. I swear to God. But,
the after the snooze button sleep is a different kind of sleep.
It's the last 5 minutes, not necessarily the first 4 hours, right? That's best for me. But no, you're spot on. Anytime I needed to reach a goal or whatever, that was one of the things that would set your day right.
Yeah.
Set your mind right and you're task oriented and get stuff done.
I don't know, man. It's weird. If you'd have told me at 20, you'll be up and moving at 6 o'clock in the morning, I just didn't go to bed the night before. That's probably what happened. But so with your career, then you're kind of flexible. So if you were to be able to do the Big Ten, like throw that out there, it's like a goal someday. You would still be able to function because these guys have jobs. The game checks aren't that big.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong; they're compensated well. And if you ask me, I wouldn't be able to answer the question of what they are paid. I can tell you what varsity official is, but flexibility is important if you want to lead that life, right? Because a lot of those guys, they're playing Saturdays, but they're required to be there on Friday, right? They don't just get in Saturday morning, show up to the stadium, and go home, right? So having that flexibility of scheduling is critically important. My job allows for that.
So what's a day in the life look like these days? You're obviously not 9 to 5.
Yeah, so it all depends. Today's an exceptional day or an exception to the rule. I mentioned earlier, left my house at like 6:30, drove up to Franklin, went to the office down in Cannonsburg, went to Bethel Park or South Park, came to here, put on 300 miles on my car today. That's not normal. But, you know, when I was early in my career, I did that a ton. You know, there was a ton of start my day at 7 and end after 7 because that's what you got to do. That's how you meet people. You got to shake hands and kiss babies. But
Zoom doesn't cut it, huh?
What's that?
Zoom doesn't cut it in your world.
It's tough. You know, there's philosophies behind doing things like Zoom. There's things that are against Zoom. I'm old school. Yeah. I like to shake hands. I like to see what the body's doing. I like to, you know, walk in here and you see a ton of sports memorabilia. So if I was talking to Jerry, guess what I'd talk about? I'd talk about sports. Right? So
probably Corvettes. I'll give you
exactly. Yeah, and motorcycles. But you know, when you do Zoom, you miss that, right? I feel like you can be more task oriented, but you don't get to learn about the person,
right?
And when it comes to people's money, more often than not, don't get me wrong, the bottom line matters, but there's a reason why behind it. There's somebody named Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. He's got a book. It says "Start with Why." I think is what the title of it is, and just learn what motivates people, what gets you up out of bed every day. And if you do that and you understand that, the rest falls in place. So you asked me what like a normal day for me would be. For me, I'll either work from home or work from the office. I work better from the office, so I try to get there as often as possible. For me, though, it's 26 miles each way. So I try to make sure that I'm productive when I'm there, and when I'm not home, or excuse me, when I am home. For me, it's important to have my calendar set up, because if I don't have a calendar set up, there's something I was taught a long time ago about your time being gaseous. So if you give yourself 10 hours to complete a task, it's going to take all 10 hours. Yeah. If you give yourself a half hour to complete the task, it'll be a half hour. So for me, I have to be task oriented, or the dog won't walk, the cat wants fed, you know, I'll go make my third breakfast, you know what I mean? So if I don't have that task oriented mindset, knowing like, hey, here's what I got to get done for the day and here's my time frame to do it, I won't have as productive a day as I should.
I think that's what I like most about my business is like, it's like Jerry's business, like he's in it all day long and like he's good at what he does, but like my business, it's tangible. It's like move this cart of clothes through the cleaning process and get it out. Where if I like had Jerry's job, I'd be like on Craigslist, like looking at some shady trailer deals and like weird shit. And I'd spend 10, make 9.
Looking for deals on T-shirts.
Yeah, like I got this sweet Hulk Hogan T-shirt. Yeah. I didn't call any clients today, but
and you have to.
Yeah,
you know, there's certain tasks that I think you gravitate towards because you like them and you're good at them, and there's other tasks that you hate and you're bad at them. And you either have to delegate those or you have to put them, in my opinion, at the very first thing, because you'll constantly push everything in its way, right? So my industry, there's something called call reluctance, and people are just scared of rejection. That's how our body's wired, our mind's wired, literally to stay away from things that aren't making us feel good, right? Yeah. So when you get rejected, which I'm really good at getting rejected, when you get rejected, you have to, your body fights that, your mind fights that. So doing those types of tasks that you don't like to do, I try to do them first thing in the day, and the rest of my day is pretty easy.
Yeah. What they say, like you need 5 no's for 1 yes.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah,
there's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Research will tell you, you know, if you follow up with a client, it's 5 to 7 touches before they say yes.
Yeah.
That's
always been my problem with like trying to do the sales part of our industry. It's like, you know, they tell you like go pass a flyer out and you'll get 8% of return. And it's like 8% doesn't move the needle. It's not even worth printing the flyers for 8%. Yeah. So you got to like. When I started building my route, I would pass out flyers, and then the next day I would hit doors and talk to people. But it's always like you said, it's uncomfortable. You're in a position where you're obviously like 5 o'clock at night. You want to knock on doors when people are there, but you also don't want to interrupt their dinner because like now you've pissed them off. And like a lot of neighborhoods are no solicitation now. Yep. So it's hard. It's a hard world to be in. Period. But being in sales is kind of a different beast.
That's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do.
You're selling dreams, right? Selling retirement.
Well, I mean, for everybody, it's different. Yeah. You know, again, and everybody buys differently too. Yeah. You know, you talk to grandma you got to help her see what her actions are doing, right? You put money into this account. What would it feel like for little Timmy to graduate from school debt-free someday, right? So the way that you present that data versus, somebody that's analytical, hey, we popped this in the S&P 500 and 10 years, here's what it would have done 10 years if we did it 10 years ago, right? So grandma, she tunes out the numbers, but that analytical person's gonna obviously be more attracted to the second presentation. So, yeah, I mean, big part of it's goal development. You can't advise people on what to do without understanding what their short-term, intermediate, long-term goals are. So try to not say I sell dreams, but just focusing on what their goals are.
Pretty secure then. Like if you get a customer, you're not really like, it's not Wolf of Wall Street. You're not giving them this opportunity to make X. You're pretty much streamlining them to set themselves up for the long term.
Yeah, so I watched that movie the other day, and I laugh every time I see it. He's like talking about like Dynatech or something. Like, I can't remember what.
I think
he's like, there's military and civilian applications, and this is gonna go through the roof, right? It's like
we're all looking.
It's
for
like
that.
It's a movie. It's Hollywood. I'm not saying it didn't happen back in the '80s, but that's not how I do it. That's not how I would want to be treated. And to me, the golden rule is very important. And I don't say this just because it's a compliance thing. I just feel like people need to understand, here's your strengths, here are your weaknesses, right? Perfect world, here's how it works. Real world will be somewhere in the middle, right?
A little unknown fact is Jordan Belford's grandmother is Nancy Pelosi. That's a little unknown fact. I think I leaked out on this episode.
I did not know that.
Ardessa, you play in the market, right?
I do. I've been in since 2001, roughly.
You've seen some downturns.
Yeah, so I graduated with a finance degree.
Yeah.
07, then 08 came. So that whole bubble came, and
hey, you bought in low.
that went. You
went
bought in
real
way,
low.
And,
You should be up 400%. You bought in
40 bucks.
I get all my advice on Facebook now.
Yeah.
So
TikTok,
people tell
Facebook.
me to buy Dogecoin. I don't need to look at the markets or anything. I just follow Sammy on
I was laughing.
Facebook.
I was laughing the other day. So I'm a part of all these different groups, and I just love to see, like, again, just people's perspectives. And one guy was like, I got $300,000 in my 401k. Should I cash it out and put it in Bitcoin? And I'm like, oh my God. I would probably do jail time if I suggested somebody.
Although if you did it in 2011.
Hey, I'm not saying it didn't work out for some, but
I always use that for a long time. I used it as a barometer. So I bought my business 7 years ago.
yeah.
And for what I paid for it, I think I'd have like $380 million if I would have just said, I'm not buying a dry cleaners, I'm buying Bitcoin. And I'm sitting on my grandma's couch.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
That's right.
I had to laugh. My dad, market like drops 20 points. He called me the other day. He's like, oh, the market was terrible the other day. It lost 200 points. And I'm like, what'd you do the last quarter?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, if you stayed in the market, you'd be up like 18% last year. He's like, oh, I don't realize that. He's like, my buddy was telling me about Bitcoin. What do you think? And I'm like, if you're stressing over 200 points, you might not. You might not sleep if you ever put any money into that. I was like, it's literally the opposite of what you want.
It's kind of funny because, like, you don't have to be very educated to know what Bitcoin is, right?
Yeah.
And now you go into a 7-Eleven and you can buy Bitcoin in an ATM machine. And it's like, they're just prying on people.
I met the guy that owns those Bitcoin machines.
Genius.
Yeah.
Is he pretty smart?
I don't know.
Is he wealthy?
Does he dress well?
He wasn't like super flashy or anything.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He wasn't exactly looking poor.
Does he need his suits cleaned?
We got a dry cleaner.
Or a real estate. Yeah. No, he seemed like a nice guy. I just thought you get to meet interesting people in this industry. I'm sure same is true for you, right? Where people's stories, you get them talking, and you get to learn, just about them, and you get to learn some cool stuff. Jerry, I'm sure you're the same way, where you're like, you do what for a living?
Like
Don't discredit a dry cleaner. I bought a manufacturing company in my drive-thru.
I'm like a people's therapist half the time, I think.
Yeah.
People start spilling their guts, and I'm like, I can't believe you're telling me this.
Yeah. All I said was hello.
Your husband did what?
Our last guest, we decided that he is now a business therapist.
Yeah.
So just gonna add it to the Rolodex of Jerry's many.
That's part of it sometimes.
You gotta have, like, in business, you gotta be nuts to go into a job like yours where there's no real guaranteed pay. You gotta be kind of.
You gotta build it.
Yeah,
your industry's the same way, man. Like you have to build something.
Yeah, you just gotta have a different look at things. You
gotta solve problems. I mean, that's what I love about business owners, and a lot of people on your podcast. It's like, I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you guys said that I don't know how many times on this podcast. Figure it out. Right. And that's what business owners do. And people don't realize, you're never off. Right. Like, okay, I'm at home with the family, but my mind, unfortunately, is thinking about the problem I have on Monday, or the problem that happened on Friday, or is payroll going to cash because I'm 90 days out on an invoice, right? Just like stuff like that. It's
never stops.
It never stops.
I will tell you this,
and the bigger you get, the bigger the problem is too.
One of the things about this podcast that's helped me to realize is, like, we've talked to people that are here, and we've talked to people that are just getting started.
Yep.
And the ones that are here kind of get that there needs to be a switch. You know what I mean? Like, well, that's one of the things we talked about being a parent is, like, my kid does not give a shit if that invoice is 90 days past due.
Yep.
Like, and then my goal as a parent is they should never feel that pain at all. Like,
Sure.
It's just part of being. It's
but you're spot on.
My daughter, they have, like, after school curriculum, and they didn't have the class that she wanted, like an art class. And I think it wasn't a lot of money, but she was like, she's 6. She's like, we're not going to pay that much to do that. And I'm like, I think I bet that on the Steelers last Sunday, so I think you can do that.
And by the way, they won. So we got the money.
Yeah, we're good. Now we're doubling down.
Yeah. We can eat this week.
We're taking Cleveland. Yeah. We're doubling down.
We're getting the good markers this time.
We got a guy we know. His name's Dave Traff. He's on the crew, and we're betting heavy on Tulane, baby.
And you just ruined his whole career.
Yep, thank you very much. Before I even got started.
Edit that out.
Edit that one out.
You don't see that a lot in officiating. I mean, when you do, it's obviously big news, but you don't see it like you would think you'd see it. Like crews fixing games.
Yeah, accused of it a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it nowadays. I mean, they had that play with the Detroit Lions where the guy didn't
rub his nipples.
Yeah, supposedly declared eligible, supposedly didn't, depending on who you ask, and scored a touchdown. They're like, oh, Roger Goodell could change that result on that game. I'm like, well, do you really realize all the money that's involved in that? And I always joke, it seems like the most aggressive challenges come from the youth games. Okay, I even had a guy like walk out onto the field after a game to like the 30-yard line and like get nose to nose with me and told me he was gonna knock me out. I thought I was getting hit that day, which whatever, it is what it is. But
have you been assaulted at a game?
I mean, assault could also include verbally.
That's true.
If we're gonna include that in the definition, it's every game.
Okay.
But it's I like look at him. I'm like, what do you like? Nick Saban's not, which he just retired, but Nick Saban's not in the crowd today. And just so you know, like I'm basically volunteering my time here, and also just so you know, what do you think I could possibly bet on an 8-under game? Like, who's taking bets on that? Like, let's just be rational about this.
There used to be a guy at Steve's Inn you could sling some junior high games into.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me, and like they'll argue about stuff that it's like player safety foul, and I'm like, I threw a flag. It was actually down at Riverside Park, and this kid ran like 10 yards, cleaned this kid's clock. Like, just hit him as hard as he possibly could. So I flag it. It's a blindside block. He's like, you're allowed to do that. I'm like, no, you're not, bro. Not only that, it's player safety. He's like, I don't care. It's how we play football. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, it's the old school huck and chuck at football. Yeah. It's a different
game.
And
listen, I love big hits, and I miss it.
Well, there's a place for it.
Yeah, and it's not in an 8-under game when the kid doesn't know that you're coming.
Yeah, and he's 92 pounds.
Like you're arguing for a kid that probably could have had a concussion
or worse.
Like, let's just be realistic here. It's not that serious.
So pro level NFL officials
are
also not full time.
Yeah.
They have other jobs.
Sure.
Big problem.
What's your opinion?
Listen, and I tell this to my dad every week. Those guys are good. They're really good. Here's what I would challenge anybody to do. So an average, so a high school football game, 12-minute quarters times 4, right? So that's a quarter, 48 minutes of football. Pro game, 15 minutes times 4, it's a 60-minute game, right? Focus on something. So in a high school game, there's usually like between 125 and 150 snaps. Go focus on something specifically for 150 repetitions and don't mess up once because you've got 12 cameras looking at you.
Yeah.
Don't mess up one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
And again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable or any of that stuff. I'm just telling you that there is a ton of time that me at a varsity level, I put a ton of time in between Saturday or Friday nights, I should say. These guys, I know a couple pro officials. These guys put in time. Okay, it's not a full-time gig. Doesn't mean they're not watching film. Yeah. Doesn't mean they don't attend classes. They don't attend clinics. Doesn't mean that they don't take time away from their families, right? And again, there's sometimes that it's just completely a miss. Don't disagree with that. But these guys are the best in the business, and I'm looking for a crew. I'm kidding. Yeah. But these guys are the best in the business, and there's you don't get any wiggle room.
Yeah, I think they could help them out a lot, with the modern technology. And I get you don't want to slow the game down, but
Sure.
And you even replay on that Lions call, it's not going to change that outcome. Like replay's not changing that. It was all pre-snap, it was all part of the game, and it's just as much his fault of the Lions as it was the officiating crew because they were playing the game. They were playing a do-say-do. It was a trick play, and they were trying to trick everybody in the stadium.
Sure.
But I think that they could help them out on like fumbles, like immediately to the review. Like in the NHL, they do it. They have a war room.
Right.
I mean, you could hire a guy like Dave to sit up there, watch the game. If he sees something, buzz it down, stop the game for 10 seconds, and make sure it's right, and move on.
Yeah, and they still wouldn't get it completely right every time.
No, I mean, holding's a judgment call.
Some of those things, it's it's bang bang. It's like faster than a fastball coming to a hitter in MLB, right? Like you blink your eye, you miss the ball, and you got to realize that these guys are the best in the business. They're the fastest. They're the strongest. Like, I mean, some of the plays they make. I mean, look at George Pickens' catch against the Browns. He laid down, caught it.
It's impossible. You're just like, it's incomplete. He couldn't have caught it.
You're right. Like it defies all logic.
Yeah.
And it was probably like a 2%, 3% completion opportunity, and he caught it.
And what the fan at home doesn't see is all those conversations you have throughout the game with players. You're like, hey, you were close. I could have flagged that one.
Right.
Keep it inside the numbers. And then they blatantly hold on the next play.
Yep. And
you might even give them that one because it was off the ball.
Right.
And then the third play, when a touchdown scored past them and you already warned them twice, then you have to flag it because now it's between you and 4. It's not between you and 62,000. It's between you and that guy.
Yep. And the other thing with the high school in particular, the rule set's different than the NFL. So you watch Sunday, and Pittsburgh has a lot of a high football IQ. That's what we're born with, right?
Do they, though?
They do. They do, in my opinion.
Terrible to have blinders on.
With that being said, Friday nights, the rule set's different. So on Sunday, you might be 100% correct. On Friday, you're 100% wrong.
I've had that happen. We have Pitt season tickets, and even between NCAA and NFL, there's rules that are different.
Sure.
And there was a play, and I forget what exactly happened, but the ref made a call, and I'm like, wait a second.
He didn't have 2 feet down.
I made a complete fool of myself, and the guy next to me was like, it's different. And called
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
The clocks are even the clocks what gets me because you're watching a college game and you're like, what the fuck? It's got to keep running the clock, especially when your money's on that side. And then you're like, no, it's a first down, idiot. They stop the clock. Yeah, it's like.
Well, I was up in Ford City and
home of
nothing.
No, the NFL quarterback, fucking Oakmont resident,
Gus Frerotte.
I reached out to him to be on the show. I wanted to shout him out. That's why I paused you.
We'll get him.
No problem. But yeah, so in in high school football, and you make a first down, you got to kill the clock. Well, in the NFL, you don't stop the clock until you're under 5 minutes or whatever, right? So this team's driving the ball and the team's holding on, and I had parents literally come off the sideline, or come off the stands, come onto the sidelines. They're like, "You're messing up the clock." I'm like, "You're wrong.
Yeah,
this isn't Sunday. I'm sorry." and I can have an attitude and I can be sharp.
You have to be.
I've thrown parents out, thrown coaches out, and again, I've had people get in my face, nose to nose, and turned out that particular individual was 2 weeks out of prison.
They were in the trunk of your car when you got home.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go back to my car, not anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. I love it. I look forward to it. I enjoy it.
Hopefully see you on Saturdays there.
I hope so.
And now a brief word from our sponsor.
This episode of Between Two Bridges is sponsored by Paymark Payroll. Are you tired of spending countless hours juggling payroll calculations, tax filings, and compliance regulations? Well, say goodbye to that chore and let Paymark Payroll take the burden off your shoulders. With our secure online portal, you can access your business information from any internet location, even your phone. Employees will love the ability to receive direct deposits, and they can access all their pay stubs, tax forms, and information through their own portal. Focus on growing your business while we take care of the rest. With top-notch customer support, we're always here to assist you with anything, at any time. Don't let payroll stress hold you back. Choose Paymark Payroll and experience the freedom to thrive. Contact us at payyourpeople.com for a personalized consultation and a demonstration of our powerful payroll solutions, and see how Paymark Payroll can better your workflow. That's payyourpeople.com. Join the growing list of satisfied businesses that have embraced the convenience and efficiency of Paymark. Payday made easy. Your business deserves nothing less than the best, and that's exactly what Paymark Payroll delivers. Now back to the show.
I guess to jump back to your day job.
Sure. What pays the bills?
Before Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, he was a broke guy in New York, right? I don't know if you saw that movie, but to get to your story as well, you don't necessarily need to go to school for this, right? There's people skills involved. You can go get a license and jump in and kind of have your own. You do work for a company, but you're your own brand, right?
Yeah. So every company works that a little bit differently.
Sure.
So you have you can establish your own RIA, Registered Investment Advisory, business. There's people that are out there that do it successfully. It can be a very expensive business model. Then you also have kind of the opposite of that, where you have, I don't want to call it a franchise model, but your W-2. Mm-hmm. You don't get to take the deductions that you can as your own business, right? Yeah. And then you have somewhere in the middle. And the place that I work is somewhere more in the middle. Okay. So yeah, it's one of those things where you always, just like anything in life, you always have strengths and weaknesses behind everything, right? You can be an RIA and take every tax deduction in the world, and you also have to spend $15,000 a year for just somebody to come in and evaluate your security system for virtual business, right? You got to pay somebody for making sure that you're compliant, stuff like that. Whereas you work for a shop and you're captive, and you don't have that expense, but your payouts aren't as high. Okay. So there's just like anything else in life. Once you get to a certain point, it probably makes sense to transition, but there's definitely. So you'll be starting Oakmont Stratton Jr. Yeah. I always thought that was interesting, but I'm really happy where I'm at. I have. One of the things that attracted me to where I'm at is the caliber of people. Again, I talked about putting myself around folks that are successful. I think if you're an independent, not that you can't go out and make friends and mix around, but to me, I like being able to be a part of a team, and I feel like I have that where I'm at now.
Okay.
So all untold, how long have you been in the game?
14 years. It'll be 14 years next month.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and don't ever expect to leave it. So I enjoy what I do. It's not backbreaking work. I get to meet great people. Hopefully, provide value along the way. I feel like I do a good job with that, and I like it.
You have a PhD in it now. That's kind of how I feel about the dry cleaning industry. Like,
yeah.
It's thought about my next move, and I'm like, well, you only have a PhD in pressing the farts out of sheets, so keep plugging away at this.
So a lot has changed in the finance world.
Yep.
In some of the things that you deal with on a day-to-day between
sure.
Investments and estate planning and
sure.
Things like that. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't we talk about some things that you can educate some of the people that might be listening on some of the changes that are coming, some things that they can keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Basics, maybe they just had kids and
didn't know we were going to go down this path. I would have put something together. No, I'm teasing.
Can we get a presentation?
Yeah. So I just think that the big thing is that as things evolve or your situation evolves, you too and your strategy has to evolve. I think a perfect example of that is back in the 80s, if you tried buying a house, interest rates were 14, 15, 16%.
Crazy.
But your CDs were paying 8, 9%. So you could chunk $500,000 into a CD and 8%. You got $40,000 a year, less your ordinary income taxes. Life is good, right? And then 2008 happened, and they tried to stimulate the economy. And how do they do that? They released the money supply. In English, that means they lowered the interest rates. And they held them artificially low up until 2021, 2022. And, your average 60-40 portfolio in 2022 took a beating. Your corporate bonds were down like 13, 14%. That's a ton.
Yeah.
A ton. A good bond year is 4, 5, 6%. And they were down 13%. So it takes you 3-4 years to catch back up. So, I bring that up because now interest rates, whether people want to hear it or not, they're probably about where they need to be. The artificially held 2%, I think you're able to buy a car from like Nissan or wherever, 0% down, 0% interest for like 24 months, 36 months, right? That's not how the world's usually meant to work.
Yeah,
right?
if you want to do that, then Nissan needs to take it on the chin, not
yeah. So
Wells Fargo, like.
So the environment's changing, and you have to be comfortable evolving with that. Pensions are fewer, taxes are going up end of 2025. That's important for people to recognize and understand. So a plan that you work needs to change as your life changes.
Yeah, you can't. It's not like the old days where like, you work at the mill, you make X, you put X away, and at 60, 65, you're good, you retire.
Those defined benefit programs, as pensions, they don't exist anymore.
They're not even guaranteed, right?
They're supposed to be.
Yeah. They were corrupt too. A lot of them were corrupt. I know my grandmother got a pension from Edgewater for years. Maybe let's just say for the sake of the topic, she got $200 a month out of my grandfather's pension.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember thinking right around 2000, they sent out a letter and they were like, oh, by the way, you were only supposed to get $185, so you're not going to get any more money. And because they ran out of money. Yeah, they were broke.
And then what are you going to do?
And they passed the blame on the people. So I don't know. It's different now. There's a lot of compliance.
Did any of you guys watch the Bernie Madoff special on Netflix? Did you ever watch that? Really interesting stuff. So Bernie Madoff, largest Ponzi scheme in human history, right? So I think monetarily wise, he stole $19 billion.
Good for
him. If you took $19 billion and you did what the market was supposed to be, it worked out to be $64 billion, somewhere around that. The number may not be exactly right. Here's why I bring it up. Here's what's very interesting. So whenever you're a part of that Ponzi scheme, they put somebody like a guardian or fiduciary, whatever language they want to call it, a trustee, I think is what it was. So the idea is that those early in the Ponzi scheme got more money out than those that were in it later. What's interesting is that the average individual that was taken advantage of when they started figuring out that all this money was missing was around 70 years old, if not older. Oh. Okay. What's crazy is like somebody puts in $500,000 and they took out money over the 30 years they had the money invested. Let's say they got out $1.5 million. They would get a bill from that trustee saying, hey, you put in $500,000, you took out $1.5 million. I understand you're 70 years old now and you're 15 years in retirement. They'd send them an invoice for $1 million.
My goodness.
And that's how they tried to recapture the money back, and then they tried to split it out amongst everybody. So imagine this. You put your money in. Money was stolen. You got some money out. You're 70 years old. You gave up probably your well-paying job or whatever. And now you have $1 million lien against you. Because of something that really wasn't your fault.
It has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
You didn't know any of that money was stolen.
So not only were they victimized once by having their money taken, they were victimized a second time by the trustee trying to balance the system back. How crazy was that? Yeah. That's insane.
It's
you get a chance.
man.
You get a chance. Watch that. What an incredible story of how this guy just. He had a legitimate side of the business and a fake side of the business, and his fake side obviously is what stole all this money, and absolutely crazy that circumstance.
So last episode, I gave the government credit. So this episode, they don't get any credit.
Yeah.
So like I watched like The Big Short, right?
Yeah.
And like you're talking about this,
Yep.
and it's like, who is to protect the normal person from
Yep.
these things, but the government?
Yep.
Because they're supposed to be filing all the same paperwork that you're filing,
Yep.
and someone's sitting at a desk and misses that.
Yep.
To that extent, it's sad.
Yeah. And that was I enjoyed that movie. I actually saw it the first time like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And anytime, what was that guy's name? He was in Knight's Tale. He was like the Joker guy. Anytime I see him play like any serious role, I always struggle with
like
that.
Typecasting.
Yeah, but he's in A Knight's Tale, and he would bet all the time. And he was walking around naked, and then this one, he's like,
Is his name
he's
Joe?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I make $1.4 million, or whatever it was, and they're like, well, how do you spend it all? And he's like, going through. It's like Uncle Sam takes half. I give my parents $115 a year, and I buy nice shirts. I got $100,000. He's like, I got a $200,000 car. But it's unfortunately, here's what I'll say about that is that I think most people get into this business to be entrepreneurial. I think they do it to leave a good thumbprint on their community. They want to help individuals, families, and business owners. But it's just like anything else. You've got that very small minority that, they're abusive and they don't work in the client's best interest. And, puts a stain on the rest of us. No Duro cleaner, pun intended.
Well, they do. I mean, there's guys out there that are they're very good talkers.
Yeah.
A lot of the good talkers aren't good doers. They promise a lot, and then for your industry, it puts a stigma on it. Like,
sure.
So if your uncle went through a bad guy,
sure,
and then you're coming down the pipe and you're honest and you're going to do it right, it doesn't matter,
Yeah, you can be guilty by association.
And I deal with it in my business. Like if one dry cleaner lost a garment for somebody, and I'm working on it to get the stain out.
Yeah.
They need to see it.
Yeah.
Like they don't believe that I'm working on it until they see it, because they're like, I was at Tony's Cleaners and they lost my blouse and I think you lost mine too. And I'm like, no, I have it. It's right here.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just one of those things. I mean, it's dealing with people. I mean, it always goes back to that. Like you're dealing with human beings. There's a human element no matter what, AI or not. There's still a human element.
Yep.
And that's what makes you good at what you do. I mean, I've had some interactions with you, and you're a very honest person, even though I've known you for
long time.
Mm-hmm. But you are, you got good roots. Parents are hardworking. Brother's a military guy.
Yep.
Yep.
How
long was he in the military? He's still in the military. Is the
No,
question.
he's out now. He works. He's a director at a he works in HR at a big company, and he's doing exceptionally well. He did military 22 years, so he did his time.
I think the last picture I saw of him, I was surprised he could stand upright with all that metal hanging off his jacket.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my brother,
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the best compliments you give anybody is tell them how good they are and how proud you are of them.
Yeah.
You know, he worked hard. You know, he has his doctorate now. I think he's got another master's. I mean, he did that while working a full-time job and being a parent, right? So, and kudos, you know, to my sister-in-law as well. She'd probably yell at me if I didn't give her some. But, you know, there's a lot of times when, you know, you're going through the grind and building your business. And, you know, that's all he did too, was build his market worth, right? They got to hold down the business, you know, just like today. I'm sure your wife's, you know, bathing the kids and feeding them and taking care of them. And it's allowing you to do what makes you successful. And I don't know much about you two, but same thing, right? You know, there's sacrifice from everybody.
We've touched base on it. Like both of our wives are stay-at-home wives, two kids similar in age, and we celebrate the wins, and we're trying to make moves and do this, and then like I don't think I tell her enough, but I tell Jerry a lot, and Jerry tells me. So like I'm just putting that on here, so that way.
So if they listen to this,
if they ever listen to a whole episode, let's benchmark it 54 minutes in.
Yeah, January 11th.
Sarah and Amber, you are much appreciated.
we talk about that all the time. How we work really hard and try really hard to be successful and have successful businesses, but it all starts at home. Without them, there's none of that.
And even before kids, like. I think back to like before I met my wife now. So I'm 20, let's just say from 25 to 30. The whole world could have gave me an opportunity. Like and it could have been in writing. You're going to do this, you're going to make X, just sign here. And at 2:00 in the morning at a bar stool, I would have wrinkled it up and threw it away. Like I'm not capable of all that. Like I have a big imposter syndrome when it comes to a lot of things. And I think she's the one that like made me realize like you're better than that. You know, you just need somebody on your team.
Sure.
You know, so I recruited well, recruited up, I guess you could say.
Dude, there's a lot of times I'll go home and we just had this talk because we're looking at something big and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just stressed out about it and don't know what to do and she looked at me and she's like, then I think you don't want to do it. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, look at yourself. I mean, everything, like if you decide you want something, there is nothing and nobody that's going to stop me from getting it. She's like, and all you've done is stress about this. I don't think you want it. And I'm like, I don't think I want it.
She's on to something.
She's right. You nailed it.
It's like she knows you or something.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good to have them.
Sure.
Do you recruit your own people? Do you look for certain skills? There's obviously a diverse background with people out there, but
sure.
I'm sure you see certain things in people that do better than most.
Yeah, a big part of my current role in the organization I work for is recruiting, for sure.
Okay.
So we work with folks that are brand new to the industry, and we work with folks that have industry experience. What's the biggest challenge that I think that would resonate across any business owner is you don't know what a successful day looks like. And you can be busy doing things that don't add to your bottom line. And, if you're, not cognizant of what can detract from your bottom line, you end up failing out. And, we can all get behind busy work. And what I try to teach people, you need to evaluate, is it important? Is it urgent? And if it's important and urgent, you should, be calendaring that and putting it in place. If it's not important and it's not urgent, you got to get out of the way, right? So, example of that might be water cooler talk, right? Everybody wants to talk about the Steeler game that happened on Saturday, right? But at the end of the day, there's a time after work that you can have that conversation. or people like the BMC, bitch, moan, and complain. That's what I call it. BMC.
Heard that one.
I'll put that in the notes. I might get that printed real quick.
But it doesn't
BMC.
pay, you're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't pay. And I'm not saying let's wear rose-colored glasses, but at the end of the day, things need to happen for you to be productive, and you can either bitch about it, fine, but I've always intentionally stayed away from that, right? Like, okay, we got a problem, how do we solve it? And kind of go into what I echoed earlier, business owners figure it out, right? And it's like, okay, well, I've got this case, got rejected, this guy didn't tell me that his PSA level was 10. It sucks. It's all right. No, I got to go to, option number 2, right? I always jokingly say there's 26 letters in an alphabet, so we go from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan
D.
Yeah. So we'll figure it out, right? Keep failing forward, and you're not going to get that account all the time or whatever, but you have to learn quickly what a successful day looks like. And if you don't, you think that looking on Facebook or Google or TikTok or whatever, that's not a successful day. That's not how you do it, right? Like,
well, that's what started this whole thing.
Yeah,
was the, TikTok stories about how, there's a lot of them. There's new ones that come out every day. There's these plans of like how you can be investing in real estate and not actually owning real estate and make money with your friends' money, and it's just, to me, I hope that we don't date ourselves, because like we're at that like brink, like we're turning 40, and I don't want to sound like the old
you are
prick.
not me.
Yeah, he's 21.
Hey,
Ladies at home watching, turn 22.
Hey.
He's got his shit together. But like, you just hope that you don't turn into that old guy that's like, these kids, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. At the end of the day, if everybody get rich with like $5,000 and no risk, you would be out of work. I wouldn't be working as hard.
Tell me where to put it.
He'd be busy as fuck, and we would,
Siri, please.
billable rates are going up again, folks.
Yeah, it's not going to happen though.
No,
dude, it cracks me up. And I'm on it's like my TikTok algorithm now, where that's all I see are these idiots that are like, listen, I don't know why you're working so hard. You could work 3 days, you make $1 million. And I'm like,
I'm going to start that for dry cleaning.
About?
Why are you guys working so hard? Anybody that makes a ton of money in dry cleaning, like there's a couple people in our industry right now that are cleaning up. They have Tahoe houses and stuff. And there's like a handful of guys, and what they're doing is, we'll make your shop 30% more money a month. You just sign up for this program at $5.99 a month. Well, if you're making so much fucking money in your plant and in your business, you don't need everybody's money. If you have the secret sauce, you could spill a little for free. But it's just crazy, and it's in every industry. And I'm sure you see it in your industry.
Of course.
There's magazines that come out every month.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I will say this: my industry is big on giving back. Which I think is great.
You're big on giving back too.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, I think that we have a civic duty to do that, and it doesn't have to be monetary. I think it can be done through time, whatever. But again, we go back to like, where are you getting your information from, right? My most wealthy clients, and we're talking federal state tax issues worth over $24 million today, 45, 50 years old. Doing projections, going to be worth $100 million when they die, right? Just, they didn't do it by watching TikTok algorithms.
Right.
I'm just telling you, right? And, these guys, everybody wants their money. Nobody wants their lifestyle. You want to know why? Because I've had my phone ring 4 times, and I'm not a multimillionaire, but I've had my phone ring 4 times since we've been here, right? Those guys are the same way. And it's like, holy smokes. And then they have to go as far as trusting somebody, and then that person, the one company I'm talking about, I won't get into exact numbers, but they had 2 people steal 6 figures, more than 6 figures off them. One was close to 7 figures. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, put all this time, energy, and effort, I'm doing well, I have problems that everybody would aspire to have, right? But the same token, I've got people taking money right out, people that I thought I could trust right underneath me, and it's crazy.
The higher up the ladder you go, the more your ass sticks out.
Listen, it's tough. It's tough, and everybody wants the money. Nobody wants,
Yeah,
6 a.m. calls. And,
I always appreciated, I think it was Jesse James or the chopper builder when he said, dirty hands clean money. And I could always appreciate that,
Yeah.
And nowadays, dirty hands, more money because the trade industry, these guys,
Booming.
they just write a number, and then you get guys that are like, well, that's a lot of money. And the companies can take a credit card, and the guy's stuck. Like, he needs his hot water heater because he has no fucking clue how to put it in. So he just pays it.
Yeah.
He's calling Jerry. He's like, man, I got to write off $3,000 for this house. I fucking put a hot water heater in.
Got to do it.
Got to do it. And then there's me. I'm dumb enough to be like, all right, well, we'll just boil water tonight, and then we'll go to get a hot water heater tomorrow.
Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah.
I'll blow up the fucking whole
We're gonna
block.
go. We're gonna
blow
go.
the whole block up.
We're gonna go to Meemaw's house. Take a big shower. We going. Let's go. It's like sleeping over.
That's funny. One of the you ever what was it? Bronx Tale when they do the door check.
Yeah.
Well, I had one better than that. So me and Sarah together for maybe 6 months, and my furnace shits the bed at my house in February.
As it always does.
It's
So you asked her to fix it. That was your test.
Go down and bang on the gas valve, sweetheart. No, so I figured out what was wrong with it. It was the gas valve. The gas valve was stuck and it wasn't opening up. And I could get it, but it was Sunday, so I could get it the next day.
Yeah.
And we had a space heater in the living room. And I'm like, why don't you just go to your dad's house? I'm staying here because I'm like the Titanic. I'm with the ship. The pipes can't freeze if I'm here and turn the sink on. And she stayed. And we cuddled up on the living room floor in front of this cheap ass Busy Beaver space heater. And
Smelling like
I was like, man, I'm stuck with this girl. I couldn't even break my furnace and get her out of here. She's sticking around. Like, what next? Get a drug habit or something to get her out of here. It's just, I mean, but the trade industry. And
let's get back to that.
The trades.
Yeah, right.
We always hit base on that. Like, fuck the government. We need more tradesmen, So.
Have college debt.
Well, college, that's a big one. I mean,
It's crazy.
I mean, you have a college degree, right? So
Yeah, but
50%
I
of
worked
this,
3 jobs to
Right.
not have debt.
and 50% of the room has a college degree. I don't have a college.
I don't have one.
And my man over here doesn't have one. So
I got licenses. You know what I mean? I have a natural curiosity, but I don't have that piece of paper.
That to me is hard with my kids because I want them to go to college because I don't have a college degree and I want them to experience college. But I experienced college. I mean, I saw 55 different campuses.
You can go to Oakland every weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want my son to go to college. It's I don't know. It's different.
I guess you'll be able to tell when he gets older.
Yeah, he'll have the choice, but if I have any say in it, go start a company, man. Go do landscaping for a couple years.
I think it's unfair to ask an 18-year-old what you want to do for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then not only that, 6 months before they go to college, they're raising their hand to go take a leak, right? Right. Hey, teacher,
Yeah.
can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Now decide your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. If I ever ran for president someday, I think you should get $10,000 to go try to start your own business.
Yeah.
I'd rather see that than that kid's going to learn more than that from that experience than necessarily school. And again, school is important. I don't think it's a requirement. But I also do see where it holds me back sometimes, right? It's like, well, if I want to take a promotion, what's the requirements you always see on there? It's like, well, I got 14 years of experience but no bachelor's degree. You okay with that?
Well, that's even when you look at your salutatorian, valedictorians, it's it's not about the fact that they were better at book work and it's about the effort that it took to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think that, I get that college degree aspect, you put the time in to get there. But there's also the guy that, you work 3 jobs. So you got an IUP degree and you work 3 jobs. That should be on that paper. That should be on the resume more. The next line in the resume means more than the first line in the resume to me.
I wish it wasn't such a stigma for people to not go right to college from high school.
Yeah.
And to experience life for a little bit.
Yeah.
I always thought that make part of college you want to when I started school, I started with political science because I thought I wanted to get into politics.
Yeah.
And I started up and I went to Pitt Greensburg, and sat with my academic advisor. And like you said, like, I'm a high school kid. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm in this fancy room, and this lady's telling me, like, well, what do you want to take? I don't know. Yeah. Well, this class looked cool. Okay.
Ecstasy.
What else do you want to take? And she's letting me pick.
Nice. Yeah.
She's letting me pick all these classes that sound interesting.
Yeah.
but
As long as they fit my calendar.
Right.
But not saying, well, like, hey, if you decide 2 years from now you don't want to be in politics, this entire semester is a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
Right.
None of this is going to count toward anything else that you want to do. So I went to school for 2 years, decided I'm sick of arguing with people. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm good with math, and I want to start doing something mathematics, something that if it's 2 + 2, it's fucking 4. And I'm not going to get a C because the teacher doesn't agree with what the goddamn
the subjective
problem
writing.
is. You know, it's just, I was looking for that. And, you know, so I bounced around a little bit before landing in accounting, and accounting kind of found me.
Sure.
But I wasted a lot of time and money, and I wish what I would tell my kids is like, oh, you want to go into political science? Why don't you go volunteer at a state rep's office for a year for free?
You're spot on.
And go learn
Be a
what it's
productive
like
member.
to be like that and live that life.
Right.
And if 12 months from now, after you did it for nothing for 12 months, if you still think that that's the future you want to have, then let's go.
Yeah.
If not, all you did is waste a year of your life while you're living in my house, eating my food with no stress, no responsibilities. Like, don't do anything except go work for that guy for nothing and learn.
That's a stigma that's about to, like, change. I think when we were young, like 18, 19, it was like people were like, you live at home with your parents? Like, what are you doing? And like, if you went back to 18, 19-year-old us, we'd be like, fuck it. Let's get home.
I mean, you'd go to grad parties, and if you heard someone was taking a skip, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
I remember.
You know what I mean?
But
now it's like, I would encourage it. Like you're saying, go
learn. And I ended up in accounting and got my accounting degree and all that kind of stuff, obviously. But when I started doing my own business, I worked with a guy that had already been doing this for a while for free. But I had the degree and I had a full-time job. But he was like, hey, listen, you want to do taxes and some accounting? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a little side work because I have a mountain of student loan debt to pay off. So I can't just focus on this job. So he's like, all right, well, you can put your desk there. He never paid me a dime. I paid him a percentage of what I generated to put my desk there. And I learned, and I had access obviously to, you know, all his office and his expertise and his software. And obviously I got a lot out of that amount that I paid him. But I learned more. He didn't pay me anything to be there. I paid him to be there. And I learned more from him than I did in any of my college classes. I learned not just the fundamentals of taxes. I already had that. What I learned from him is real world, like, how does this shit actually freaking work? Right. Because these professors, they went to school to learn how to be professors. Right. A lot of them weren't business people. They weren't in public accounting. They weren't. Right. So he was teaching me, like, listen, no, when you're doing this return, this is how you do this, and this is how this credit works. And things like, you know, what the IRS is looking for and how to make sure that a client doesn't get themselves jammed up, and how to, you know, steer a client into doing things the right way, and you know, real world advice. Yeah. And you just don't necessarily get that in college. And I think that is what we're missing. But these kids go to school, and like you said, a year before they're asking for permission to go to the bathroom, and now we're charging them $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year.
It's crazy.
And expecting them to be like, okay, so now this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life? Great. Sure. It's $100,000 a year, and you can get into debt for it, and end up paying millions of dollars back, and you're going to have your fucking Social Security garnished to cover this student loan that you're never going to pay off. Yeah. I mean, we're burying our kids. And it's just, I'm not necessarily against college. I just think that college isn't necessarily for everybody. And I think that we should prep our kids a little bit more for it before we just bury them in debt for it.
Yeah, I think teachers have been saying that for years, though, too. Is like they're there to teach. They have a curriculum. You know, it's on the parents. You know, it really is on the adults around the person. Like, we talk about it as adults, like, don't be the smartest person in the room. It's also, like, as an adult, to not forget about these kids. They're not stupid. They're very moldable at a young age. And, like, we didn't have that growing up. Like, there was a lesson plan in place, and if you didn't hit all the boxes, you were to be a garbage man, or you were to be, you know, a janitor.
Well, and that's the problem, too, is that all growing up, we were told that if you were going to go to a vocational school, or if you were going to be a construction worker or a plumber, it's because you were a bad kid, you were stupid, you weren't cut out for college, and it was silly. It's
School
silly.
district janitor has a 401k and a pension plan just like a teacher.
Right.
Part
he
of
has
the
the
problem,
same benefits a teacher has.
Part of the problem, in my opinion, is twofold. And there's more than that, but there's a lot of people that can pass the test, but they can't drive the car.
Yeah.
Right. And why I say it that way is that there's a huge difference between book knowledge and real life. Second thing is that, as you said earlier, kids are moldable. And in my opinion, and I'm just going to put this out there, business owners or people that want to give back to the community, we need to be in front of those kids, because what do you grow up to be? Something that you see, right? Yeah. And it's so important to be able to visualize yourself and say, hey, I can see myself as an accountant. Yeah. I can see myself as a financial advisor. I can see myself as a business owner. But if you're not around those folks,
you don't know what that person looks like.
You have no idea what that looks like.
We weren't exposed to that.
And that's half the problem. Because if I'm hiring somebody and they can visualize themselves doing what I do, making what I make, having the lifestyle that I have, guess what? They're going to want to sign on board. It's just like Wolf of Wall Street. He's like, how much you make last month?
Yeah.
$72,000. Listen, you show me a check for $70,000, I'm going to quit right now, right? Like, it's the same thing. It's like, I see that now, but if they're just sitting around people that are academics, which are very important, right? But that's not everything. And again, my mind doesn't work that way. It would have taken me 10 years to get through a bachelor's degree worth of information, just because that's just how I am. I have no interest in learning about European arts of the 1400s. I'm sorry, I don't.
When we went to a high school, we were really fortunate. We had, like, we all went to the same high school. We were very, and you might have missed some of them, but we were very fortunate to have some old school teachers. Yep. They kind of like, they just were kind of honest with you.
Yeah.
And they weren't like belittling you.
Yeah.
But they were just honest. They were shooting the shit straight.
Yeah.
And like some of those people are still in the community that we're in. And like it's nice to see them. They're happy to see us. They all knew that we had ability. Yeah. Like obviously I got an F in that class. I mean, attendance.
Chemistry for me, it's what you're describing.
Attendance.
Slept in that class every day.
Out of chemistry.
I almost got,
Apparently you need to have geography to be in chemistry, and I never took geography.
Let me tell you about the 2 semesters that I was in an engineering major.
All I knew is that Mold Day was in October for us, and we got to bring in snacks. Beyond that, chemistry class, I couldn't tell you a freaking thing.
And we were very, like I said, though, we were very fortunate to be in a small school with a lot of people that cared about you as a person. But, like, at the end of the day, you know, it's so fucked out there for these kids. Because, like, they're going to be worse than us because at least we had boxes to check to think you were going somewhere.
Yeah.
These kids are going to be all over the map. They're not going to know where to go.
Just get berated with information like
So now the trade schools
and it's that quick information too.
Yeah.
It's that 15-second dopamine hit every time.
Look at all these kids now that their biggest goal is to become an Instagram influencer.
My daughter, she just said
TikTok
the other day,
famous or something, you know.
Because I know you go back to the school, and I know you do some things.
Yeah,
there, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, for sure.
I think back to when we were in school, we didn't really deal with too many business owners. There wasn't too many people that were coming back.
We had that guy.
No, but you know what's funny? When I finally did switch to accounting, you know, like I said, I went to Pitt Greensburg, and I'm not sure I'm sure this is the same way in the other campuses, but in the accounting field, some of the professors were like did have accounting practices and things like that, and kind of just were like moonlighting a little bit as a professor, like teaching a class or whatever. Those are my favorite professors. Yeah. Because they were real. They weren't just reading out of the book. They were like, I had one that I'll never forget, and he got fired. But like his classes were really good, but then he'd be like, he's like, all right, we have a test next class. Take your notebooks out. We're going to go over it together so you guys are ready. And we're like, okay. He's like, number 1 is A. Number 2 is B. And then we went through the whole thing, and he's like, it's an open notebook quiz. We'll see you next week. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
We had a guy, CCAC, that was a business law professor. And he said something to the class. He was like, the first student in this class that takes $500 and puts it into an IRA, I'll match it.
I was in that class.
James Jordan.
Yes.
I stopped at S&P Bank and I opened up an IRA. I don't even
he
know
matched
if I
it.
have
Yeah, he matched it.
And then he started this principle, like if you started a business with $2,000, then whoever made the most money that semester in that business
That's funny you brought
got
that
a
up.
timeshare to Fort Lauderdale.
Really? What class was this?
It was business law at CCAC.
He taught us.
Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
Juti.
Very interesting guy.
And so I already had a landscaping company at the time. And
you cheater.
No. I was in full disclosure with him. I said, hey, I have a landscape business. We're already making revenue. He said, invest $2,000 into your business and see where it goes. So I bought a walk behind, and I signed another like 150 yards that summer. I had like a big route that summer. And me and my girlfriend, my high school sweetheart, we went to Pompano Beach, Florida in a timeshare. And I think back to that guy a lot because he's probably dead now.
He's counting on the people not doing it. We've talked about that before.
Right.
There's a barrier of just willingness that people will not go through.
They need
for
it.
whatever reason.
You had a guy, the attorney, I forget his name, but
Rocco.
He had, I thought, such a great idea as far as like how his comp plan ran. Like, you need to learn how to incentivize people to create the right habits.
Right.
There's a saying out there, and I'll fuck it up, but basically, like, your habits are going to show you what your results are. Like, you can't control the results, but you can control your habits, which are going to create the results. So, like, you reward those good habits, like saving, right? It's not timing the market; it's time in the market, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be much. Every year I go back to Riverview. And I talk to the kids, and I just show them, like, hey, if you take $2 an hour from, like, age 16 to 20, $2 an hour from work, and I assume it's a 20-hour work week, and we do that for that short period of time, if they do it just for that period, they get, like, 1.1, 1.2 million in their account.
Yeah, and time. The kids have time.
And that's it. They invest, like, $10,000, and they don't have to put another nickel away.
Yeah.
So it's just just trying to create those good habits for people.
The young have time. We're still young. We have time.
Yeah, we're good.
Every time I think I'm going to save money though, and I'm like I still have your contact information. I'm like, I'm going to hit them up. This is the year I'm going to hit them up. And then I'm like, no,
buy this new business.
Buy this new business, and this lady wants out, so I'll buy her business too. No.
So what do you tell us what you do with the kids in the school, and what do you have going on with the school?
Yeah, so what I currently have going on versus what my ambition is, I'll share both. So one thing that I'm blessed in is that I got into the industry I got into. And learning that walking into a wall, I don't have to be the one that does it. I get to learn from other people, right? Sometimes we need to walk into the wall and find out that shit hurts, right? But then there's other times, and a lot of times, especially with wealthy clients, I'll say, how'd you get there, right? What'd you do? And it's like, I just started doing this, right? So anyways, in high school, in my opinion, financial literacy in this country is just piss poor.
Yeah.
Right. People don't understand what the 401k is, don't understand what a savings account is, they don't understand what a pension is, they don't understand what a stock or a bond, just like fundamental things, a will, power of attorney, like there's just basic things that you should have a grasp on. I try to go back to the kids and just share with them, like, hey, listen, I'm not saying like I'm a wildly successful person. I do pretty well. Made bad choices, made good choices. I'm you 20 years ago, right? I used to fall asleep on that desk right there, right? I used to, I just try to help them understand who I am and where I came from. And it's like, well, hey, listen, this is what you can do. And there's a book I read a long time ago, and it talked about family financial landmines. And basically the concept of it is that when your kids are kids, you don't talk to them about money. Why? Because it's an adult subject.
Right.
And then they go off to school and they graduate, and now they're what? They're adults. And they replicate the same mistakes that you did because now they're adults and you don't talk to them about it. So they go out and they max out that credit card. They do all these bad things that bite them in the ass. And it's like, well, let's teach these kids about this stuff like early. And I teach them a little bit about taxes, just like basic stuff. I say, hey, here's what taxes are. You buy 3 scoops of ice cream, Uncle Sam takes one of those 3 scoops. So now you're left with 2, right? Yeah. Simplest way to understand it, but to identify with it, right?
I hate Uncle Sam.
I hate him already. I try to turn them into Republicans quick.
You teach them
You're in there campaigning. You found the loophole. You found the loophole to campaign in high school.
But
are you registered to vote? No? Get out of here.
Well, it's funny because there's like credit card companies I heard of that would like sit outside of Wendy's like at a local campus and be like, hey, you sign up for this credit card, you get a free cheeseburger. And what do you think? Like, hell yeah, I want a cheeseburger.
Pirate games, they used to give you a beach house.
Yeah. So
ours was outside the bookstore. I got a free cable plan, but I put $1,000 on books, and it took me 4 years to pay off. Exactly. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So I try to go back every year, just explain just basic things like, just save, pay yourself first. Yeah. Understand like there are things that help make you make money. Is it sexy? No. It's just a habit of I'm gonna treat myself as a bill and do that first. Try to talk to them a little bit about like having a game plan for school. Like don't just go to school just because that's what your best friend's doing, right? Like and I love them to death. One of my buddies went to a fine arts school for like an accounting degree, and I always him too, Jerry. But I think to myself, like, I don't think I'd go to a fine arts school and spend like $40K a year for a accounting degree. Right? Like, I don't think I would have done that. But so I try to do that. I go to Mystical Vortex class. It's actually, I'm proud to say that I solicited for that class to be a requirement to graduate from school. So they go through, just fundamental stuff. And then I just try to go in there and just help them be exposed to something new. And my eventual goal, I've worked with the principal down there, or I should say I am working with them. What I'd love to do is set up a scholarship for the kids. For this one, it would be anybody in the school. Do like a financial literacy workshop for the parents. At the end of the day, the parents are going to drive habits. And if the parents have bad habits, guess what the kids are going to have? Also bad habits. Yeah. So if we can strengthen the community through that type of workshop and just teach them, like, here's what a will does, here's how taxes work, just get some professionals to say, these are the fundamental things you need to do, that hopefully matriculates down to the kids. And then we have a community that's more financially secure. My goal is that it's a free event. If you have money to donate, 100% of the proceeds turn into a local scholarship. So if we get 20 people there and they put in $20 a piece, we got a $400 scholarship for one of the students in there, right? If they can't afford a thing, that's fine, not a big deal. You can afford $100, great, that's cool too. So we're trying to create those good foundations, which again, it all starts at home, especially till you get out in the world and you get exposed to people. So Mr. Hewitt's supposed to be working on that, so we'll see what the board has to say or whoever has to clear it through. So I think the superintendent and then
school
manager
board
or whatever.
I'm sure school board's going to want to look at it.
Yeah, I was laughing because I get kind of mad when people like tell people how to donate their time or money. And the previous person, I guess, said, well, if he's going to use our facilities, we're going to charge him. I'm like, I'm donating my time. Yeah. I'm donating back into a scholarship. Yeah. Why are you trying to charge me for the library?
So, a local guy, Pat McAfee, plum guy.
Yep.
He
exactly who I think of every
struck
time.
It, and they're sitting at the thing, and they're like, well, we're going to have to run it past the board, I guess, to like distribute these funds.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's my money. I'm giving it to you. We're going to fucking put it right where I want it to go.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like, so there is a power struggle with boards and any application, local school boards, business boards. Everybody wants to, and that's, I don't know, that's just here and there with us. Like, we're more normal guys sitting at this table.
Yeah. The other thing that I do is I have a scholarship set up specifically for the football team, for one of the seniors. Not a ton of money, but hopefully as I make more money and accumulate wealth, I'd love to grow it. But, to me, football, since I didn't have a degree, football, again, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like it taught me so much. It taught me to be gritty, taught me to work hard. Nothing's given to you for free. When I have that scholarship set up that I put in my family's name, I have them write out like a business plan for their life for like 5 years. Nothing crazy. I have them set up what is called SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound, and just say, hey, where's your college career going to take you in 5 years? How's it going to benefit you? And could they pencil whip it? Probably they do. But at least they took a moment to think about it. Yeah. And I require that to be eligible for the scholarship. And
for the Alumni Foundation, we do an essay.
Same idea. And it's just pause for a second. How was football valuable to you? Like, what did it teach you? And then secondly, like, you're doing this academically through school, whatever. And I don't care. I actually have in there, you're eligible if you open up a business or if you go to school.
Right.
That's what I put
That's
in
a good
mind.
concept, too. I think that funds need to be available for everybody,
It's not a ton of money. I wish I was Elon Musk and I could write a check for like $100,000, let somebody start a business. I can't do that, but try to give them, again, just a little bit of hope, a little bit of...
Yeah, we run that golf outing every year. I think we gave $4,000 or $4,500 to the program.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And in my head, when we do it, it's like, to me, like, I'm very negative. Like, we probably should talk more. I'm very, like, my value of $1 is kind of skewed, but I'm thinking, like, man, we had 120 guys there. We should be able to get them more than $4,000. So then I write the check, and I'm like, man, it's only $4,000. But then you start looking at their nuts and bolts, and $4,000 goes a long way in a Class A football program.
It can, absolutely.
And it's $4,000 of found money for them. Yeah. They didn't have to worry about.
Right.
And then we do the scholarship every year, and we keep money out of the outing for the scholarship. We'll do $500 for the kid.
Yeah.
And growing up, you think it's a popularity contest, but it's not. It's about somebody that gets it.
Yep.
And we all know who our head coach was, Jake Appa. He instilled a lot of values in us, and just even the community as a whole. And we kind of look for a kid that gets that.
Agreed.
So, but yeah, the education for young kids, I think Mara said that we had a guest on here, and he said the original curriculum was developed by Henry Ford. Right?
Yeah.
So they want people to get to work when the bell blows.
Yeah.
Go to lunch when the whistle blows. Leave lunch when the whistle blows. Don't worry about your money because the company's going to take care of you in the long run. You have this little pension plan.
Right.
And we'll take care of you.
Right.
As long as you take care of us.
Right.
And unfortunately, that day and age has sailed. It's long gone.
Well, here's what I'll say to that is I think there's nothing wrong with working at Walmart. There's nothing wrong with working at, Quick Fill, any of that stuff. But for some people, it's not enough. Right. And it's disappointing when some folks are put down for wanting to aspire for more, right? Yep. You get people that the one that kills me, it's like, and you guys will get this, Pat McAfee, we'll take his for example. I guarantee you, somewhere on Facebook, and who cares about Facebook, somewhere on Facebook, who cares? It's a write-off for him. It's like, you dunce.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a word I haven't heard in a while.
Seriously, like, you dunce.
Speaking of Jake Kappa.
Okay, yeah, he just saved himself 20. He's probably in a 40% tax bracket, but he saved himself 40% of $250,000. Yeah, he saved himself $100K in taxes.
Right.
He still spent $250 doing something
he didn't have to do.
And that type of stuff, I think that should happen more. There's other things we're trying to do for the school. Again, just a great idea. I posted an alumni thing. People probably don't realize this. There's a bill for kids that can't afford lunches. It's like $5,000, $6,000 down at the high school. And so I'm just trying to work at chipping away at that, and just stuff that I'd rather do that than buy the person's coffee behind me at Starbucks.
Right.
You know, that's just how I am.
I always end that line.
Did you ever see the TikTok where the guy drives
around? 50 hamburgers, 50 cheeseburgers, 50 fries, 50 chicken nuggets.
Yeah. He's like, I need 10 Joe to goes. Right? That shit's so funny. The guy gets his bill. It's like, it was $120. It's like, what?
And like you're like a critical thinker, and you've dove into this field that you're in. So it's good for you to be like, because you're not the 4 bachelor degrees, 1-2 master degrees guys.
The opposite
you're
of that.
very relatable to these kids, and like,
Try to be.
I hope they appreciate having you as an asset.
That's awesome.
Man. I don't get some of their lingo anymore. But yeah, I coached for a while too, and that was a great experience, being able to coach some of the kids, and just I think I did like 2 or 3 years, and I was with Coach Todd Masick, who's a great guy, and some other folks, and yeah, I just try to give back. You know, just try to do shit that I would hopefully. Again, these kids, like, fast forward, it's like, okay, well, I'm in a position to give back. And again, it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be through time. It could be through whatever. And hopefully they do that too.
Well, this might upset her, but Patsy Kafortek was one of those people in our growing up process.
Yeah.
You know, that like I talked, we were fortunate to have these teachers. She had a way about her.
She's tough.
And it's funny because I always think of her as like the home row, because like she was our keyboard teacher,
with the like shoebox on top
right.
of her finger.
And I'm like, this is such a crock of shit. At that time.
Yeah.
But there is not a day that goes by that I don't like. Even my wife's like, "Oh, you're pretty good at typing." And I'm like, "Yeah, Patsy Kafortek knew what's up. That fox can run."
I'll have a full blown. I'll be clacking away having a full blown conversation with people. How do you do that?
One of the things I taught myself as an adult that she drove home was not using cap locks and using shift. I mean, I rock shift all the time.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's actually. I think I said it earlier. She's a class I go back to, and you know, there's a difference between. The way I try to look at it is like you care enough to either make somebody succeed, or, you know, and what else? I don't know. And if somebody's holding you accountable to your potential, that's not somebody that's being anything other than somebody that cares about you, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like if I had kids and I saw my kid failing, but you know, taking their first step, like you're going to encourage them and you're going to, you know, incentivize them to do that. I think that there's a lot of teachers at that school that, and there's some more in particular that you know.
She got her career started at Newport Business School, so she was around nice. Young adults.
Yeah.
Like she kind of could see.
She
saw her end product.
Mrs. K is awesome.
Yeah, she saw her end product. By the time she got to Riverview, she knew who she didn't want to create.
She was tough,
and she knew it, and she gave her time too. She was a coach and just a great lady. I did something with her recently. Last year we put some kids to prom because in my business it's just
if you need help, let me know. I'd love to participate in that.
We see kids
so cool.
coming in that like $20 breaks them to get a suit cleaned.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to me, like I didn't think about it at the time, but like when you go back to prom, that's your first real showing out as an adult.
Yeah.
Like you're getting dressed up. You're fancy, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like
some people can't afford it.
Yeah. No, and that's what. Like through the conversation of like some of my customers.
Especially the girls, man, they spend some money
on those dresses and stuff.
Yeah, and it was like one of the conversations I had with a customer was talking about how like the tickets are now like $50 and like you know you start adding it up
just to go.
Yeah, I mean Riverview's fortunate they have it at Oakmont Country Club now.
Yeah,
nice.
Do they?
Yeah, we were able to.
We always went to
Edgewood. Yeah. I just think like it just shouldn't be something that at that age you shouldn't be told no, because you'll talk to adults now and they didn't go to their prom and they're not apprehensive to tell you I didn't go to prom.
You need to experience life. I mean, you should experience life. Period. And people struggle with that. It's like you know you work. You guys talked about it, right? Like when you go on vacation every year, you're like, hey, I shut down for 2 weeks or whatever, right? It's like go do that. Build those memories.
What are we doing it for anyway?
Right.
You know.
Right.
We'll get you out of here with some projections. I know you probably do that at work, but we're not going to date the show, so we won't talk about the games this weekend. But who you think's going to win Super Bowl 57?
Ooh,
So our kids can look back and laugh
who do
at
I
this
think's going to win versus who I'd want to win. So obviously I got to say Pittsburgh who I'd want. But I think that Detroit has a really strong opportunity to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Thank you.
Bite those kneecaps.
Hey.
I like it.
Yeah.
No, I think Detroit has
If an NFC team's going to win, I want it to be Detroit. I love it.
Listen, I like Detroit. On the AFC side, I hate to say it, Baltimore's tough, man.
Okay.
They'll be a tough out.
No. I'd say the greatest kryptonite's Pittsburgh, which, from what I heard, they're supposed to have like snow. What do they call it? Lake effect.
So we just dated the show.
Sorry, it's supposed to have some lake effect snow out there, but
Well,
that
For the
could-
Ravens game, Lake Effect, Maryland.
No.
Love it.
no, Ravens have a bye.
I know, but we're dating the show.
Sorry,
now.
my bad. You can edit that.
What will be the price of Bitcoin in
Oh, dear God.
2030?
They just announced like Bitcoin ETFs, which I thought was very
That was
interesting.
today, I think.
I don't think people truly understand what Bitcoin is, and I'm part of that.
Yeah.
I own
Could it ever? It could crash, right? It could fall off the map.
disappear.
People always say, like, what backs the U.S. dollar? Well, how about the U.S. military? Okay, right. Let's just take that small fraction of our GDP, right? Of our expense there. You got, and it's the world's currency too. But Bitcoin, I don't personally have. I think a lot of people have a negative connotation about it because, people that do bad things will ask for Bitcoin because it's decentralized. But I think that it's too early in the technology to be relevant. But at some point, I think it will be relevant. How's that for a projection?
So by 2030, it might be relevant.
How about rates?
By June of next... No, I'm kidding.
What are interest rates in 10 years?
Who knows?
10 years is too hard. We might be
5
back
years.
crashed again.
Five weeks.
What they're saying is two pullbacks. I don't know. I mean, people just have to understand that interest rates are a tool to keep inflation down.
Yeah.
When they want to tighten the money supply, they raise rates. When they want to loosen it, they let it. They
I don't
lower.
think most people realize the level of manipulation that our government has over us in so many different ways, between interest rates affecting spending, affecting savings, and then tax code affecting spending.
Well, that's
affecting
what the tax
trends.
code is meant to do: is incentivize
100%.
spending in certain areas. That's
Right.
why real estate has so much depreciation. And
That's why the electric vehicle credits.
the tax credits, all that.
I mean,
all that.
Here we go.
we talked about this before.
Every
First
show.
6 episodes.
Jerry loves Tesla.
Yeah. But
They're cute.
They're adorable.
The other thing is, I was joking about the other day. I say it tongue in cheek. People talk about refunds. It's like, well, you know why you got a refund? Because you paid too much taxes.
I did see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
It's mind-blowing.
take the time to kind of understand. Your CPA
People
or accountant.
live poor and then they get a $10,000
Yeah.
refund. It's like, you could have had that all year.
Yeah, they're like, I've got the best CPA in the world. I got a $8,000 refund. It's like, you charge extra, Jerry. Go get it. I'm just kidding. But it's just interesting to me how people don't understand. And I explained it to my mom. She was like, my refund's nothing. I'm like, Mom.
Good job.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like,
Congratulations, you
listen,
nailed it.
all that is you have a tax liability and you're making down payments on it. If you get a return,
They
guess
made
what?
money on your money.
You paid too much. She's like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, well, you finally took some financial advice from me. It took 13 years. But,
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
But then I've got clients that are like you study it.
yeah.
And I had one client that every year he just wants to get as close as possible
Yeah.
to zero, and he hit $2 the one year, and he's like,
Crying.
I don't know if I'll ever beat that.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
solid.
gonna be me. That's gonna be me for the rest of my life.
$2 away.
I got one buddy, and he's an electrician, and he's like, I'm thinking about buying a house. I'm like, all right, that's cool. He's like, well, I asked him, I was like, well, how much money did you make last year? He's like, oh, I think on the books like $25,000. I'm like, well, how big of a house are you looking for? He's like, like 200. I'm
Nope.
like,
Self-employed?
and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you have to understand that when a bank looks at you and underwrites you for a loan, they see you at $25,000 of income. Who's going to borrow? Who's going to let you buy a house that way?
Does that sound familiar?
Meanwhile,
Constantly.
He's like, oh, guess what? I just made $350 today, like doing this work, and I was in and out, and
it was cash, and I don't have to
and it was
report
cash, and I don't have to report it. And I'm like, listen, I love it. I don't like paying taxes.
Buy your house. And
I'll
then
pay every tax I'm supposed to. I don't want to pay a nickel more. And which I'll have to tell you a story too. But yeah, I'm like, you got to understand, like you got to show something before you're allowed to buy a house. Like you just have to, like, understand what you're giving up.
It's a long game too, because as a business owner, sometimes you gotta take it on the chin
for years.
Yeah. You gotta start thinking about buying 2 years, 3 years in advance.
Yeah. And I always tell people, because I deal with a lot of real estate investors, and they're the worst of it, because they don't want to pay any taxes. Yeah. So they want to write everything off, and they're like, "Well, I put a furnace in my house this year. Can I pretend like it was in a rental property?" And I'm like, "No." But okay. But I have to explain to them, like, listen, you want a big refund, you want to show these huge losses, but then next year you want to buy an apartment building. Yeah. The bank's going to look at this tax return, and they're going to be like, you lost $400,000 last year. How do you no? Yeah. You just can't. Yeah. You can't.
Those days
I always say,
gone.
paying taxes is like buying borrowing power.
Here's the other thing that people are failing to recognize too, and I'm not throwing shade at you, Jerry, but a lot of CPAs, right now, we're in the lowest tax environment we've ever been. Mm-hmm. The lowest. Okay, and I talk to clients all the time. I'm like, listen, the appointment I was at earlier today, $1.1 million. Okay, they're like, oh, I'm gonna kick this back to them 72. I'm like, no, you take this out over the next 6 years while you have no income. Because we're going to have you at a 12% or a 15% bracket. They're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, well, let me show you if you don't. So I showed them projections, 10 years, portfolio doubles in theory. You're now having to take RMDs on $2 million and your wife's filing single. Well, guess what tax bracket she's in? The 25 or 28% tax bracket. Meanwhile, I could have you out at 12 and 15 right now. So do you want to save 13% on $2 million or not?
Yeah, but the rich need to pay more taxes, right?
Listen, everybody deserves to pay. Everybody should pay, but 50% of America doesn't pay any taxes.
One of the analogies I recently heard was girl comes home from her first semester of college for talking to her dad. And she's like, the rich need to be paying more. They should be taking care of the students more, And she goes, you got a 4.0, right? And she goes, yeah, and I worked hard for it. He said, Stephanie, your roommate, she partied every night. Yep. What'd she get? She said she got a 2.0. He says, all right, well, you just give her 1 GPA point, then you're both at 3.0, and it's fair, right? She goes, that's not fair. That's ludicrous. Yeah. I worked for that. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's what happens. That's the real world we live in. The rich pay a ton of taxes. It's in different avenues.
And again, like, people don't realize what they pay taxes on. You got FICA taxes, right? You own your own business, 15.3%, right? Yeah. Up to 160, right? So then once you start making too much money, I'll say this. I was in the 32% tax bracket this last year in 2023. That means, if you put it simply, January, February, and March, I made zero. I made absolutely no money because I'm in a 32% bracket.
It's actually worse than that.
Well, no, I get it.
Just factoring federal taxes.
I understand. No, I get that. I'm just using that
obviously
as an example.
You understand that.
But the state's 3.07. Every time you buy gas, is 50 cents a gallon.
Social Security and Medicare and
all that
state
stuff.
And unemployment.
When you make too much,
I mean,
you got the Obamacare, the Obama tax. It's like
2. But hey, man,
whatever it is.
If you work for yourself or you own your own company, you're rich.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is that everybody has that
stigma.
That you own your own business, so you're doing really well. Yeah. Yesterday I was doing really well. Yeah. Today I just got fucked. Yeah. It's
or if you have someone that works for you and they make a good salary, you know, and they want more, they don't ever see how much. Like, so if that employee makes 45, they don't see how much it costs you to employ them.
Yeah, that 45 is actually 60.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you can add 15 to every check.
I had a lady that told me, and she didn't like me after this comment, and I don't care. She didn't do business with me, and again, I don't care. She had like $800,000, and I was sharing like the tax avoidance strategy for the internet tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion's illegal. Okay. Yes. You go to jail for tax evasion, not tax avoidance. Okay.
Glad you cleared that up. We're
Thank
only
you.
10 episodes in.
Someone
Someone cleared it up for us.
I saw an eyebrow raise. I was like, oh, Randy's onto something. But she's like, oh, I should pay more in taxes. I was like, did you know you can pay it? You can pay the IRS. You can send them a tax bill for the national debt. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you feel like you can pay more taxes, write them a check, send it to the IRS, and you can deposit it. She didn't like that answer. And I'm like, why are you telling other people to pay tax bills? Like, why are you pointing everywhere else? I have a problem when people will tell other people things, but they won't sacrifice themselves. Like, okay, you think that this person should get into that college? Give up your seat in that college.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lead by example. You think that I should pay more taxes? You pay more taxes first. Lead by example. That's all it is.
The fact is the vast majority of people that are screaming that you should pay more taxes are probably paying zero.
And getting money back.
Because, like you said, nearly 50% of the American population pays zero federal taxes. Zero. And a lot of them get money back.
Yeah.
They get a credit.
Yeah.
And that's the other misconception that drives me crazy too. Oh, what's my refund? Refund? You paid in $2,000, you're getting $8,000.
Yeah.
That's not a refund anymore.
Right.
That's my money now.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say this. Last year, not including like property or anything like that, I paid north of $50 in just income.
Yeah.
That's insanity. Yeah. That's crazy. Some people don't make that in a year.
Right.
And it's not a brag. It's nothing. Right. That's not the purpose of the statement. But
no, it's nauseating.
Whenever you look at it and you're like, well, wait a second. I paid north of $50. Yeah. And you're telling me I got to pay more? That's insane. Yeah. And again, like you look at business owners.
That payroll tax line on that report you send me every 2 weeks when I do payroll, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, granted, this money's going to some good. But like if they would just give me that money for half the year, I could change my employees' lives. I could give them a foot up.
You take that money and you throw it in the S&P, and this is a fully as a financial advisor. You throw it in the S&P, you'll rock what Social Security is doing. They only put it in Treasury bonds.
Right.
So you want 10% on your money, or do you want like 2.5%, 3%?
Yeah.
I'll take 10 all day. That's not a guarantee, people.
This is not financial advice.
You go to a bigger company, they offer a 401k, they offer a retirement plan. Now, a small company, we can't afford to do it. We can't match. But like, if you would take, let's just say 10% of our payroll tax and allow us and earmark those funds for a 401k for my employees. Yeah. And that's the only way to legally take it out without paying it. If they would allow you to do that, you would be able to change someone's life. Instead of them working until they're 68, they're done at 65. And they're not relying on Social Security.
I heard of one person that did that for somebody. And what they did was is they effectively, they did like the payroll tax, but their bonus, they, unbeknownst to the employee, would take that money and invest it. And then whenever it's time for that employee to retire, they cut them a check. Yeah. Out of that account, which I thought was super cool, and it was a 6-figure check.
Yeah, in this day and age, people would leave because they didn't get $80 at Christmas time. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah. Oh yeah, you're 100%
But
right.
if they just would tote that company line, there's something.
Nobody starts at the top.
Yeah, there's something to be said for longevity. Yeah. But it's just not there. Like kids will jump jobs. We talked about it earlier. You were saying about Walmart, working at Walmart.
Yeah.
Guy listens to the show. He's a Clarion alum, and I'll never forget. We were talking. They had a job fair at Clarion, and he's looking at all these companies, And one kid in his class, Walmart was there, and they went over and they sat with Walmart like in this job fair, and the kid took the job at Walmart and was making like $72,000 as a regional manager for Walmart right out of college, and like he was like everybody's baffled by that. Like, well, what are you doing talking to Walmart? Yeah. Well, there's corporate jobs inside of Walmart too,
Listen, like a Chick-fil-A, you own Chick-fil-A, you're making bank. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, again, you got a ton of stress. But you can make money in what people could just simply gloss over. Yeah. It's 100% possible.
There's a lot of avenues to make money. It's a lot of avenues to invest your money. That's why you got to have a good investment banker. Somebody that knows the game.
I don't have that license.
Never mind.
Fuck it. Any investment bankers that want to be on the show, reach out to us. Between Two Bridges podcast.
That's funny.
So, All right, well, we're getting to the end here.
Yeah.
Is there anything
Thanks
else?
for having me on.
Is there any other tricks of the trade, or any? What's the one thing you'd do if you had $2,000 extra right now?
Yeah. Trick of the trade is follow a budget. If I had an extra $2,000, if you have the ability to invest it in yourself, you're going to do the best. Have the ability to invest in your business, you'll do way better than anything I can offer. But whenever those two things aren't available, you can't improve your situation or you can't improve your business. That's when you talk to somebody that can help you. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. But some advisors would probably disagree. But
how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I always say through Jerry. Email Jerry.
Call Jerry.
Business secretary.
So what I'll say is that in all seriousness, just so I don't disclose who I work for and all that stuff, you could talk to anybody on this podcast. I'll make sure you can connect with me that way. And
all right.
Yeah, email us. We'll forward it to you.
What I'll also add is, like, you don't have to be so wealthy that you know. I want you to do the right thing. You may not be my client, but I at least want you to get solid direction, so you do the right things. But I'm always bringing on new clients.
So no spend January is not a financial long-term plan?
Hey, you just can't double up in February. You know, you can't say, oh, well.
I still think it should be hashtag get a job January.
Hashtag get a second job
Get
if you
a
don't have a
second
first
job.
job January.
David is hiring. So.
It's funny because I'm leaving for Key West February 1st, so I'm not going to spend any money in January, and I'm going to triple down in February.
I'd be
lucky.
eating ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly, and then as soon as February gets there, like surf and turf, baby. Let's do it. Like your sodium's through the roof because of all the ramen you ate.
There goes that collegiate job.
There was a guy on the radio today. There was a guy on the radio today that we listened to, and he said, instead of this no spend, because you're affecting people on a daily basis, like people's jobs, like tips and wages,
servers and bartenders.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
He was like, how about just if you don't have a job, get a job.
Yeah.
And if you're not making enough at your first job, get a second job.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So. But
we'll be all right.
Yeah.
The United States will be all right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's for sure.
These Kellers don't run.
That's right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you ref on Saturdays, man.
All right, sounds good.
Can't wait.
I'll try not to blow any calls for you.
All right.
I don't like getting booed. It hurts my feelings sometimes. If I had a feeling, it would hurt it.
Alrighty, everybody. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Very good.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Yes, we still call it Twitter. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.